So I just want to start this out by saying that had this been anything in the universe of major spoilers, I would have not been talking about it on this platform at all. I'm not part of the whole leaking culture in gaming where people want to be first. People don't care that developers and publishers have a way that they want to roll out information for a game. So it's like, hey, this thing is making the rounds. Let's just all talk about it now. Like, I'm not really into all of that. So had this been a gameplay mechanic, a reveal of a returning character, even like a Ridley, I wouldn't be speaking on it at all. But this is the back of the box art. And over the weekend in Japan, retailers started displaying, it seems, the box art to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And so the back of the box art, I guess you can use the word leaked. But if it's being displayed now, this is all information that Nintendo is fine with us knowing. This just happened to be the first person to walk into a store when these things started being displayed and say, snap, snap, let me take a picture and post it online. And that's what happened. And that's what this is. This is basic stuff that Nintendo is going to put on the back of the box art. If we're talking the way that was intended to be used, is for the average customer who knows nothing about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, says, oh, cool, look at this character on this game. Turns it around, reads the back, the most basic information. Again, they're not going to put major spoilers there. So if there's an NPC there or anything like that, this is stuff that is perfectly in the information rollout of this game. Because again, they know what they're doing when they put in that there on display at major retailers. So this to me is 100% fair game and doesn't spoil the game for me or for you. So when I saw it was, a Metroid Prime leak floating around, I was a little bit nervous. Then I saw, it's the back of the box. I was like, oh, that's nothing. Like, what's that? Let me see. Because if it was something major, I would have, I don't want to look. But this, nah, man, this, actually, I'm glad I looked because it played into what my next video, which is this video, was going to be about in many ways. So I'm going to use the topic that I already had in mind, and I'm going to use this brand new information and turn it into this one thing that you're going to listen to now. So let's kick this thing off with the back of the box art's synopsis. And this comes directly from a translation as seen on GoNintendo.com. Shout out to them. It says, with the hope vested in you and your new powers, return home from an unknown planet, having been transported across space and time to an unknown planet, Vuros. Samus Aran must carve a path with her newfound powers in order to return to her original world. So that is the synopsis. We're going to get to that real quick, but I just want to go through everything on the back of the box art, really, before we even get to anything. So we have Samus at the very bottom of the box art, and I'm not showing this on screen because, well, I don't know if it's safe to show this. So just to be safe, I ain't trying to get caught up. Y'all know how Nintendo do. I'm going to be safe, and I'm not going to show anything here. Again, it's like one image, and if you really want to find it, I just said, Go Nintendo got the image up. You can see it right there. But anyway, yeah, at the bottom of the box art, you see Samus riding Viola, which we've seen that art already. We see images that we've seen from the trailers and the intro of the game, the boss battle that you see in the intro that you see on Treehouse Live. That is in here. The forest area, that beginning area. That again, this is all the same stuff. So if you're like trying to find anything new, there's not really anything new here. And that's just the bottom half of the box art. It says FPA Metroid, which is cool, first person adventure, letting people know what they're getting into, trying to keep that understanding, you going in that this is not a first person shooter. This is more of an adventure game from the first person perspective. But yeah, the top of the box art has a row where it's Silex kicking in the door like you've seen them do already 1,000 times in the intro, in the very first trailer, in the first reveal of Silex and Prime 4, that image. The second image is interesting. We'll get to that one in a second. The third one is a Lemorne, just a single Lemorne. And the fourth image is the plant enemy that you see in trailer, I want to say number 2. You see that plant enemy, but we've seen, again, these shots are directly pulled from the trailer. But that second image, there's a brand new gray and yellow or orange NPC looking character. If I had to guess, I would say that character is a character that's just maintaining this area. Even if all life form, if there was life that created him, is gone, he was probably, charged by solar panels or something like that. And so he's still active, in this base, and will probably give Samus a helping hand. If I had to guess, that's what that character is. The character looks really cool, but yeah, we don't really have much to go on. And like I said, that's my takeaway. It could be a far more important character. Hell, it could be another bounty hunter. You got Samus here, you got Silex here. Why not have other ones? Maybe Silex isn't the only hunter that comes from Metroid Prime hunters. Maybe there's other ones around it. Maybe this character is one. So I could sit here and say, oh yeah, it's just an NPC, but it could be something else. And other than that, it's just a giant image of Samus holding on to her arm cannon, classic Samus pose, the amiibo pose that you see at the end of the brand new trailer. And you see the forest area of, like that. It looks like a Lamorne, castle. But yeah, that forest area that we've seen with the Long Bridge, we've seen that already a million times. Yeah, that's the back of the box art. But I want to focus on the synopsis a bit, because this is where it gets interesting. See, I've made videos already about time travel. I've made videos about a split timeline potentially with this game to separate the FPA Metroid games from the 2D games. I would love that, So we got to rewind back. The reason why I made videos about time is because around a decade ago, when asked Tanabe about what he would do with a potential Prime 4, he always spoke on doing something with time, making it different from the Light and Dark world from 2, but something where you was going in between worlds and the things you were doing was affecting the other side and playing with the Metroid timeline. It was things along those lines that he was talking about. So I can easily see you using these psychic abilities, for example, to do cool stuff like you were doing in the ending of Titanfall 2, where you can grab something with these psychic abilities from one time and put them into another time in order to gain access, to open doors. I can see that playing into, the gameplay side of it. Look, this one quote could be taken like into many different aspects of literalness. Like it can literally just mean, oh, what we saw in this intro to the game when Silex, shoots the artifact and everybody gets transported to this, well, let me say it the way they said it, transported across space and time to an unknown planet, Vuros, right? So they can mean that. That's it. That is the time thing that we're doing in this game. That's it. We just were taken to another time. It could have been the past, could have been the future. We don't really know, but we're in another timeline now, right? And it could be timeline. See, there you go. I'm doing it right now. It could be timeline, or it could just be time, like past, future. But it's all in the same timeline. Or it could be a whole nother timeline. That, or you going forward in the future or back into the past creates the second timeline in Metroid Prime Beyond. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's what it is. Again, there's a lot of ways you can interpret this, but if you take it beyond it just being the transportation to Vuros, right? Clearly this is another time period. Let's just say that, right? If you take it beyond that, and now apply it to gameplay, like I was saying, into game design and things like that. Oh, yeah, it could get really interesting. You could see yourself on a morph ball doing puzzles where it's like, yeah, you got to make a wall get out of your way and then you bring it back. And if you're doing it like in real time, almost like what you were doing in Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, stuff like that, and it's like, oh, now you're going to charge the morph ball and then you're going to zoom off this thing. But there's things in the way in this time, so you got to like zoom, 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 zoom. In order to make the jump across, you got to get things out the way by pressing the button, going back, forward, back in time. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, gameplay stuff. That'll be great. I look at the actual Viola vehicle and the center of it, when all the energy comes into it, that looks no different from the artifact. So if the artifact transferred you over here, what's to say that that vehicle won't be used to do some real Marty McFly Back to the Future stuff? Where when you hit a certain speed limit, it's like, boom, you went forward in time, boom, you went even more forward in time, boom. Even like who's to say? It could just be one. It's like, oh, you drive at a certain speed limit, it just takes you to a different time period, and it just like loops around. So if you're like, let's say the desert becomes a forest, a beautiful forest with waterfalls and everything everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Now you're driving through that, and then you drive fast, it takes you back to the desert, and then back to the. It could be that, or if it just keeps pushing, like the more speed you unlock, the more forward in time you get to jump. What if Silex is jumping ahead of you, and you're exploring things in the game? In certain areas you go to explore, there's mines around, because that's what Silex do. Look, we may not know a lot about Silex, but we did play as the character. So there could be little things there. It's like, oh, look, mines around here. Oh, so Silex was here. So when we open that one canister in the new trailer and all the damn, things are missing, that's everything Silex could basically grab. The last one he left behind, that's what we gonna use, you know what I mean? So let's say something along those lines. I still think Silex would just destroy it. But he's like, yo, nah, I ain't gonna let her take this. But, I'm just saying something along those lines where it could be that Skyward Sword effect where, Link in that game felt like he was very much so chasing Impa and Zelda, through time. So it could be something like that in Metroid. That would be really cool. But what if that desert goes from desert to ocean and now we Wind Waker? People was like, yo, boring desert. Now you're in the boring ocean. Listen, I ain't find it boring. I don't think the desert's going to be boring either. I think there's going to be a lot of fun stuff to do there. So having the more open world, having now the potential of jumping through different time periods in this world is super interesting. They could do things like, again, we got to compare it to Zelda, but the time jumping Ocarina of Time, where maybe the beginning of the game, a lot of it is desert, is this area. When you finish those biomes, there's a time jump. And yeah, you can come back to this time and complete things. And there'll be things here that you need a weapon from maybe the past or the future in order to access stuff in the first time period we're on Vuros. But after, the time jump, it'll be like putting the sword and removing the sword in Ocarina of Time. They can do something like that. That'll be super interesting. I'm all for splitting the timeline too. Let's just be clear. I don't care. Look, before I made this video about the box art, this video was going to be about where is Samus. We've seen a lot of gameplay of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Not a ton, but enough to wonder where's the most iconic feature in Metroid Prime, her reflection. We see a ton of gameplay. We don't see her reflection nowhere. We see reflection of Silex. We see the Lamorne reflection, which is just a reflection of a brain, which is super weird. We see cool effects, but we never see actual Samus Aran. Where is Samus Aran? Why isn't Samus Aran ever shown here? Is there a reason for that? I know if they would have shown her early in, Prime 3, it would have been a problem because it would have spoiled the corruption of it all. That's literally in the title. You would have saw her, everything, all the corruption spreading when you're seeing footage from later on. So I can see them hiding it there, which makes me feel like maybe they're hiding it here for the same reason. Maybe there's something that we're missing here. What if when she gets fast forward through time, right? Because we keep thinking, time, maybe she's going to go back in time. And I have my reasons for thinking we're going to go back in time, and I'll get to those. But what if we go forward in time? And when we're playing with Samus in that suit, right? In that Viola suit, she's actually an older, way older Samus. So when we do see her face there, maybe we'll see the creases and the wrinkles. Maybe this Samus, if they do split the timeline, maybe her jumping through time, her blonde hair turned green. So now she's not a blonde no more. She's a green head. Is that a thing? Yeah, well, she grows green hair. And now you're wondering, wait, so does that mean that Metroid 1 was really this Samus from this timeline? So what does that mean? Is Metroid 2 actually the first Metroid game in that timeline? Now people are like, oh my God, timeline in this. No. Again, I don't mind. I love Zelda. I love Metroid. Metroid doing what Zelda doing. Zelda doing what Metroid doing. My favorite games doing what each other's doing. That's a good thing because they're different enough. One is about pew, 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 and the other one's about yat, 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 yat. You feel me? So I'm good with it either way. One got a grapple beam, one got a hook shot. That's it. That's simple as that. One turns into a goddamn Goron and spins around the world. The other turns into a mothball. I'm good either way. Nah, but honestly, like there's potential there to not be stifled by what the 2D games is doing, and vice versa for the 2D games with the 3D games. Like to be able to say, like, yeah, now we got these two different. It's the same character we love, but two different takes on it, where the story is actually two different takes. On this side, Ridley could still be alive and all that, and on the other side, maybe not so much. Look, once you go to time, it makes me think of my whole conversations about the title of this game before the game was ever titled, before it ever came out. Whenever I talked about Metroid Prime 4, I always made sure to let y'all know, when I say Prime 4, I'm just letting y'all know I want another FPA game, a first-person adventure Metroid game. But I never want Metroid Prime 4 because it ended perfectly. Like, you can still pay off the Silex thing, but you never got to bring up Phazon. You got to never bring up Prime ever again. They decided, after almost 20 years, to carry baggage from Prime 1, 2, 3, and name this game Metroid Prime 4. So the people who go and grab this box art to read the back, they're going to see that 4 then and be like, damn, but I want to play 1, 2, and 3 before 4. They chose to do that. I didn't ever think that was the smart move, but they chose to do that. So that tells me what I've already known. Once I saw that name, I said, well, we got to bring Phazon back. He always wanted to play with time. The only way to do this, and I've said this in previous videos, is to go back in time and get Phazon. Now, the Lamorne, they look like Metroid Prime, original form, before she took the form of Samus and became Dark Samus. They look just like Metroid Prime. So did they take a Lamorne and the Metroid for the Metroid Prime project and then create Metroid Prime? Because if that's what it was, that's crazy. Now, if we're going back in time, could we trust the Lamorne? Who knows? But I feel like we're going to go back in time. If not for Phazon, because I mean, there's no, that I know of, there's no, in the current timeline, there's no Leviathans running around, anything like that. We squashed all that, Planet Phase, destroyed. That was settled. So we got to go back in time. Maybe it's something along the lines where Silex is like, I was there, I saw what went down. I was trying to get some before you destroyed everything, but I chased you down. And then I thought, you know what, the best way to beat you is to go back and get more Phazon and and, you know, make myself Silex Prime. I don't know what the story's going to be, but there's a lot of different directions they could go. But I know for a fact you have to bring back Prime because it's in the title. You know, you just have to. You can't just be like, oh, no, you know what? It got nothing to do with that. Then it's like, then why carry the baggage over? Oh, no, we wanted people to know that it was an FPA. Once they saw first-person Metroid, they would have known, oh, it's a sequel to the Metroid Prime trilogy. That would have been solved instantly. You know what I mean? Everybody else, they would have just been like, oh, that looks awesome. It's been 18 years. They would just be like, yeah, that looks awesome. Switch one. Just sure, I'll try that new thing, Metroid whatever. Metroid Beyond, let's just say, right? It would have never made a difference. But they chose to call it Metroid Prime 4. So that means Prime. I'm not saying Phazon got to come back, but Prime definitely. Phazon was a part of it. So who knows? If they're going to do that and bring it all back, again, favorite trilogy of all time. Galaxy don't got a 3 yet, but favorite trilogy of all time. So with that being said, I would say do what you got to do in order to give me more Metroid Prime. But you know how interesting it would be if they actually say, you know what, Samus never actually, because the way that this synopsis ends, right, it's with her getting back, which is also a crazy line, you know, carve a path with her newfound powers in order to return to her original world. Original world? K2L? That's gone. What are we talking about here? What world? I think this is supposed to say newfound powers in order to return to her original time. That would make more sense. But what if the game ends and she doesn't return to her original time? Because once she started messing with the timeline, there wasn't an original time for her to return to. Or what if it ends with it just, again, splitting the timeline, because once she went back, it changes the events, or just doing that. What if it changes just the events of the mainline timeline? That's the fun thing about timeline talk. Yeah, while it can get really crazy, if they just keep it in check and just do a nice sharp pivot and say, okay, now this is the story of Samus. So the way the main 2D, you know, Metroid games up till 6 plays is basically Metroid, the Prime trilogy, the opening of 4 is still in that timeline before the Silex moment happens and they get transported to Vuros. So that part is in the timeline. But then there's Metroid 2, Super Metroid, you know, Other M, Dread. That's that timeline. And then you have this timeline where it's the original. Then it's, you know, the trilogy. And it's 4. And now everything after doesn't have to worry about everything that came after. So now the next Metroid Prime game, Metroid Prime 5, or let's just say the next, the fifth entry in the FPA series, let's just say that, that game could do whatever. And it doesn't have to, worry about, oh no, but this happened after. And what about the baby Metroid? And what about Super Metroid? And what about Dread? And it don't got to worry about none of that. It's just like, yeah, Retro and Tanabe could do whatever they want. And then you got Sakamoto and Mercury Steam doing whatever they want. Both respect each other in the sense of not stepping on each other's toes on certain things, but there's not going to be much toe stepping. And by toe stepping, I really mean who the character is, because it's still Samus Aran in both games. Sure, as the game series goes on, the events, like, yeah, other M, fine, sure, stuff like that. If Samus wants to be acting like that, cool. Hopefully that never happens again. But you know what I'm saying? Like, sure, now you got Prime. Is like, yeah, the things that she went through made her this kind of character. But at the end of the day, they're both Samus Aran. You know what I mean? Like, that could work. I know some people would be upset, but it's like, listen, Mario don't even got a timeline. You go from paper to RPG to sports games to Galaxy games to 2D games, 3D games it just don't matter. And Zelda can get away with it too and have everything in the timeline, like Four Swords or Echoes of Wisdom or Tetris Tracker. At the same time, they're doing the main series and then they're playing with the timeline there. You see what they did with Age of Calamity, how that was like loosely in the timeline, but now you got Age of Calamity, right? And that's gonna Age of Calamity, Age of Imprisonment now is gonna be actually part of the direct timeline of Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom. Like, yeah, Age of Calamity still counts, but it's not exactly part of the timeline because there's events there that switches it. So there's always going to be different timelines there. And I get it. Metroid is like, oh, it's the one series that just went in a straight line. But that line had a whole bunch of bumpy sections and all of that. Like, straight up car crashes and everything. Other M, would be one where it was like, yeah, the interpretation of the character was weird. The decisions that the character made was like, yeah, but then the infusion happened. And it was just like, things was just like, okay. So it's not like it's been perfect. So having a situation where Tanabe could do his own thing and maybe tell his own version of this bounty hunter's, story. I'm all for it. I'm 100% for it because the game's already different enough, They're already different enough, but I can't help but wonder, is where is Samus? Will we see Samus in this game at all? I mean, think about the Dread trailer. We saw her. Remember the moment with her and Raven beat? When he yoking up and her eyes, all of that multiple times. Like, her character's there. Even when she speaks, it's like, that's Samus Aran. She's there. So far, it's just been weird that it's like, there's no shots at all during this whole run of Samus. It's almost to the point where if you don't know who Samus is, you could not even know that that's a woman. You could think that that's just a dude. Oh, look, it's like Doomslay. It's like Halo. This guy's awesome looking. That's a cool looking dude right there. Because you never see, I think you can see that the way they model her, she has a very sleek, beautiful, femininity about her, like a super elegant design. So I think you should be able to notice it. But maybe somebody's like, I couldn't even tell. So how can you blame them? We haven't seen her at all. They never show her face at all. And no promotional material, nothing. Which makes me wonder, like, what is it about Samus in this game that's different? Or is it just a thing where it's like, oh no, we just want you to finish the game 100% and then you get to see her in the Zero suit. Like, the classic reward. It's like, sure, that's cool. For me personally, I would much more prefer it is that they're not going to show her right now because there's a hook there, like the corruption, something there. I don't know what it is. Again, it could be she's older. It's like, yeah, you're going to be playing with old lady Samus in this game. Maybe she's like super younger or something. I don't know. Whatever they want to do with it. Or again, maybe she has a corruption or something like that. Or maybe it's just the fact that you're going to actually play as Zero Suit Samus at some point in this game. So we're going to save the moment when you see her for that moment, It could be anything, but it is interesting that we haven't seen her at all when it's been such a prominent part of the Prime series to make, notice of Samus through the Vaza and things like that. And now there's really none of that. But hey, all the Vaza shots look beautiful, no matter what suit she's in. The Vaza looks great. But again, you only see reflections of Silex and Lamore brains. That's it, pretty much. For the, like most part, I want to say, yeah, that's it that I can think of. And obviously the little detailed lines when she's scanning, you know, the one Federation soldier's arm, you know, that part, cool. But you never, like, in none of the gameplay, you don't see the reflection pop up like you always get in all the Prime games, seeing her eyes. None of that. We don't get no pretty eyes. Do I think that's still going to be in the game? Absolutely. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, they've been keeping things secret for a while. Like, yeah, we know time is gonna, like, well, we didn't know. Now we really know. We figured time will play a role. Now we know time is playing a role. Is it just the time jump? I don't know whether that's reverse or fast forward to Vuros. Is that the one-off time thing, or is it a gameplay mechanic beyond the psychic abilities that was slowing down time? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's gonna be more. They haven't shown that. Again, they are purposefully keeping things secret. And I feel like even down to that, like that detail, I think that graphic is off. Like in the settings of the game, they're like, yeah, turn off the reflections to the face. And they know why, but we're like, why? And I can't wait to find out why. Honestly, with that, I'm going to be honest, with that, I hope we never find out until the game comes out. Like we're playing the game and it's something there at the beginning before the opening that they showed on Treehouse Live that shows something or when everything goes to, you know, white flashes white after the artifact is struck by Silex. There's something in between there where it's like Samus has no suit, no nothing. You know what I mean? Like, no, I think she will because we see her arrive in Vuros, but maybe it's something right after that. Like in between the actual Viola suit and your regular suit, there's a moment of Zero Suit Samus, something there, you know, because it's just weird that we don't see no Zero Suit, you know, no regular Samus anywhere, nothing, you know what I mean? So I would like to. I'm just saying that, you know, we got these beautiful visuals right now. First time we get in HD Metroid, you know, Prime, because we got Dread, but also 4K Metroid Prime, first time. So it's like, and yeah, they should do an update for Dread and remastered Prime, you know, 4K. Just saying. Yeah, man, like they actually, you know, they actually are making the game where Samus cannot look questionable. Let's just say that, because every time Retro Studios has made a Samus character model, it's been pretty mediocre. Like you could say whatever you want about Other M, blew out all the Prime models. Hell, the best model was probably the one from Metroid Prime Hunters. That model was way better than any of the models that we've seen of Zero Suit Samus in the trilogy. Like, it's wild. So I feel like they got to redeem themselves with that. We haven't seen any humanoid creatures at all. We've seen humanoid figures in suits, but we haven't seen like a face or anything like that. So hopefully, you know, when we do see one, it's actually something where it's respectable, nice, something that we can be proud of, that we want to show off and stuff like that. You don't notice that you rarely ever see images of Samus outside of her suit from Prime 1, 2, 3. And 1 was probably the best one, let's be honest. 3 was cool because they at least just gave her an anime look in a sense, and so she just like matched almost down there like a Link or something like that. So that one was fine. 2, yeah, 2 was just weird. Great game though, great game. Absolute masterpiece. Now look, I know for some Metroid fans, this whole conversation of time gets y'all nervous. In the same way that the desert right now got y'all nervous. Hearing split timeline probably got y'all furious, like, no, and all that. But when you think about time in a game like this, it can be so interesting. You know, from, like I said, vehicle sections, that you playing with time during those. Even stuff where it's like, yeah, you went back in time, you found this weapon that didn't exist no more in the future in order to open doors. I got to make that joke again, but it's true, because that's really cool, you know, and having maybe something from the future that can defeat enemies that were super hard to defeat in the past. Maybe there's some enemies there that is the reason why this planet went extinct. You don't have a weapon that can defeat them in that timeline. So in that timeline, it's just like Emmy. You just running from these enemies. But now in the future, you get this weapon. It's like, yeah, now I could go back there and these could take them out. So now those sections become less about running away and more about you now basically wrecking everything, doing what Samus do. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of ways that you can actually play with time, and they can be really cool, like very, very cool. And I'm sure y'all probably got even cooler ideas than what I came up with in this video, or maybe some of my ideas, brought up some ideas in your mind. Let me know in the comment section. Like, honestly, like, what would you do now, knowing that this series is going to play with time? How far would you take it? Would you go, the split timeline way, or would you just focus on it being stuff for gameplay? Like I made, some examples in this video, and Samus, like, what's up with that? Why aren't we seeing her at all? What do you think that is? Do you think it's nothing? I'm looking too deep into things, or do you think there's a reason for that? And what reason do you have? I know somebody on the last video was like, yo, what if Silex is from the future? And they wrote this before the box art. Because again, we've been talking about time travel in this game forever, because that's the only thing we had to go on from Tanabe forever, for a decade. So the person was like, oh, and shout out to you. You know who you are. It was like, oh, what if Silex is just Samus from the future? And I was like, that's kind of weird, because then that means Samus wants to offer. So, like, that's just weird. But yeah, still, what if, faces aren't being shown right now because it's something along those lines? And I'm like, yo, that's weird. That just came to my head right now because I remembered that comment. But yeah, there's a lot that they could do. Let me know, what your ideas would be. What would you do at this point? I like the idea of using the motorcycle like the DeLorean in Back to the Future and reaching a certain speed, and then the game just like just changing time. Almost like going through the damn portals in Sonic Cross World, or having a level change in Smash Brothers when you got, the changing levels. It did that whole effect. Something along those lines, and now you're in a different time. That'll be sick. And if they did do something like that, especially with the desert, that would explain then why the desert looks so different compared to the rest of the game, because there's effects that happen there. There's, you're here right now, but now you're doing something like, again, I'll bring up Skyward Sword, but Skyward Sword dealt with time. And remember the time, what were they, time shift stones? Right, with the little robot dudes and everything. And then you had the whole fight on the bridge with the pirate, and then the boat is the example I'm trying to give. You were on the desert, but then you got this gem, almost like the crystal on Samus's forehead, right? But the bike could be that. You know what I mean? Viola could be that, and for a nice, I don't know, like a nice few feet away from you, you would make it like there were sections where you could make the whole area go, back in time or whatever. But, there was things that you could carry that for, like, a nice section around you. You would be in a different timeline while everything around you was desert. Like, so you were on the boat and you were in water. Right around, everything around you was in water because of this gem that was on your boat. But beyond that, it was all desert. So you were seeing, like, you were literally in the past, but everything in front of you was the future. And as you went into it, you saw things appear, structures and stuff like that. Imagine that for this game. That would be great, and instantly shut anybody up speaking on the visual style of the actual desert right now. So not only will there be places that you can visit, like you see the areas with the smoke coming out of it and everything. What if that area is like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you can access this area right now and there's stuff for you to do. But once you get the ability to jump through time, now this is a whole thing. A whole different chunk of it was there, but that all fell is under the damn sand. You don't see that in the past, but in the or in the future, in the past, you do see it. It's up. It's a beautiful, like imagine just being in something that's super deserty, almost like the contrast between Skytown Elysium. That looked almost sandy, even though you were in the sky, right? And then I always want to say Forsaken Fortress, Sanctuary Fortress, for crying out loud. The Sanctuary Fortress from Metroid Prime 2, right? Imagine playing with that visual style. So it's like you go from that visual style to the other. It's like, yo, that's crazy. It's like one is shut down in the future, and then one is all alive and lively, robots everywhere in the past. Something along those lines would be incredible. Incredible. That's why I see this whole thing about time, and I'm like, yo, I'm excited to see what they do with it, because there's so much possibility. Sci-fi and time travel and stuff like that just goes perfectly hand in hand. And Yeah, I'm excited to see Metroid, do something super unique with it. And if that means making the FPA games a whole completely different timeline, I'm all for it, honestly. I'm genuinely all for like this series not to be something where I'm like, oh yeah, but it don't matter because at the end of the day, I'm up to Metroid 6 in my mind. So no matter what you do in these, it really doesn't matter because I'm so many games removed from whatever Samus is doing in this time that it just there's no stakes. Like I know Sam's gonna survive. I know Sam's gonna be good. Da 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 da. The minute that you decide, yeah, this is a different timeline now. It is not that timeline. Now everything is different. Now everything changes. Now stakes are different. Rules are different. You could even be like, yo, what if they killed off Samus in the 3D games one day? Like, yo, that's crazy. Like, yeah, like they just end the prime timeline by that Samus just dying. Like, what? That's sick. Yeah, and then that Ridley wins, and then that really goes back, into the other timeline, and that's how Ridley is back in the mainline games. Like, what the fuck? Ah! Yeah, I'm just having fun, but that's the point. They had a decade. If you really think about it, Tanabe had almost 20 years to think about this stuff. Because he could have been thinking about it as he was producing Prime 3. Like, oh, well, we'll go with the next game. So who knows? But they had, since restarting development, 8 years? They had damn near a decade to come up with the coolest stuff. There's been, again, we always bring up all the games in between the Prime releases. But something like a Titanfall 2, if you're going to play with time, you got to look at that. Because the stuff that they did there was really cool, really cool. So, yeah. That's my thoughts on the box art, and those are my, theories and questions on where is Samus Aran. And with that, let's move on now to the next headline in this episode.